if you've got something that's repetitive, you really want to automate that to the best of your ability. So you don't have to go out there and actually do that email every single time. You just have the system do it for you.
All of these things are just ways to speed up your team and your time, and also offshoot some of that work to lower level team members that need the experience and the training. And now it's going out very professionally. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Ridiculously Amazing Insurance Agent podcast. We have the one and only Therese Potter here. I'm excited. I'm the only non-North Carolinian on this podcast right now. I'm fearful you guys are going to call me a Yankee or something from being up north.
We'll invite you down to the South, Kelly.
I have to slow down my talk.
Yeah.
But I'm also here with a long-term friend. Gosh, I don't even know, George, how long we've known each other, but it's probably going over the decades.
It's been a while.
Yeah. With social media, you never remember exactly now where you meet people. But George, why don't you tell everybody a little bit who you are? Because I think our listeners are really going to be excited about some of the things that you have and what you do.
Sure, absolutely, Kelly. And as you know, I grew up in the insurance business. I'm a third generation independent agent. My degree's in computer science. And I started out helping my father with the agency, and I took over the agency and ran that for years. And then I got into really technology consulting, helping the agents with the technology, because so many people buy the technology, they put it in, they only use a certain percentage of it. And what I do is come in there and really train their staff on how to use the technology that they purchase. And that could be anywhere from the Vertiforce solutions to the applied solutions to the Momentum or formerly Now Search solutions that are out there today. So we work really across a spectrum of products.
And I know there's some systems that you've mentioned to me, EasyLinks, QQ, some of those that really don't have a third party trainer, or they rely a lot on like video training or just kind of figure it out. So that's why I was so excited when George agreed to be on our podcast, just to give some agencies out there maybe on some of the systems where you'd love to use it more, but gosh, you got to sell policies and everything else. And George,
they're busy with the day to day.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I think with a lot of the systems, it's, you don't know, you get in there, you do your thing, but some of these agencies are just running so fast, it's hard to slow down to speed up, right? So we're going to be talking today a little bit about, what email templates do we think agencies need? And I know this is such an exciting topic. I'm sure it's going to be a top downloaded podcast. But for Therese and I in particular, we really focus a lot on how do agencies become efficient, right? So something that is replicable that you do all the time, maybe it's sending out an auto ID card. Well, every time you have to type the email, even if it's 3 minutes, think about how many you send out over the course of time, right? And I think the other half of it is, how many of them have typos in it, or we mismatch something, or we don't have the opportunity to say, leave us a review. Like, we miss opportunity. Every communication coming out is an opportunity. So, George, from your perspective with consulting, how do you kind of talk to clients about, use of templates and their systems? Like, what's your approach to it?
Well, I think, the key is here again, if you've got something that's repetitive, you really want to automate that to the best of your ability. So you don't have to go out there and actually do that email every single time. You just have the system do it for you. And a lot of these systems today have triggers, like in the renewal process, as an example, when the renewal downloads into the system or you manually renew the policy, you can have the system trigger out and send an email to the client reminding them of that particular renewal coming up, and to get them engaged, to check the policy, make sure everything's correct. I mean, how many times have we really looked? I mean, when people get that renewal in the mail, they just look at the price and they write the check and they're done. But we really want to focus on looking at the content, because maybe they changed cars. The car change didn't get processed properly. So we really want to focus them in on that. And then from an E&O perspective, we want to watch that as well. But I think that's just right out of the gate, one of the areas that I would focus on.
Absolutely. And, Therese, obviously you've kind of managed teams and been on the operations side. Maybe you could share too, like, have you seen some really horrific emails go out that could have been amended if there was maybe some templatizing using?
Yeah, I think sometimes, we rely on the templates and we don't review the templates even. We've got to make sure we're paying attention to what we're putting in them. If we're not careful, we just, jump in and you'll put the email address of the person, the template will automatically put in the name of a person, and then you'll switch it and it won't change it. I actually did that on our team the other day, and it was a message to the team, but it said, Chad's name, because the template was the way the template had been put in. So we just have to really focus on, if we use a template, make sure the templates are accurate. If we're not using a template, we have to really make sure we're paying attention to spelling and everything like that, and who it's going to. So, processes, like you said, processes and procedures and getting things in and having everybody doing it the same way is very, very important. Because when you don't have those processes, you don't look as professional. You lose that professionalism when it comes to the client. And checking those vehicles and things like that too, checking the policy. When he said price, I'm like, that is so true. People go right to that price.
They
And
do.
even the agents will focus right on that price. And that's not the important part of an insurance policy. It's really the meat and potatoes of what that policy is and what it covers. And I think we miss out as agents not reviewing the coverages and not saying, oh, you have 5 kids, you need more rental car coverage because you don't have enough. So it's those kind of details that are important.
Yeah, Teresa, I share that experience. I remember talking to a client years ago when I started in the agency. They called up, they wanted us to give them a quote on their insurance, and I went out to the shop. This is a commercial account. We're looking at the policy. They didn't have hardly any coverage. We looked at the machines they had in the office. They had different machines in there, were $100,000 a piece, and they were leasing them, and they were required by the lease to have insurance on them. They had no insurance. And then after you start pointing that out, they realize the impact that could cause on the business. Next thing we know, instead of decreasing the price, we increased the price, but we gave them the coverage that they needed, because everybody talks about price, but when you have a claim, it's all about coverage.
I was like, say that's the only time no one cares about the price.
True.
So, Teresa, in kind of your roles and George in your roles, maybe you could share what are the most popular things that people should templatize inside of their systems. I know I've got a couple that I really like. And for those of you listening out there, if you're like, oh, I don't need email templates, it's just another thing. I can't tell you, once you get in the habit of using them, you will just be like, please templatize everything. I can just attach and not have to think and not accidentally put the wrong person's name on there. Yes, sign me up. But George, maybe in your work, do you see some areas that people really do want to kind of work on streamlining and templatizing more than others? Is there any that come up?
Well, I would say right out of the gate, one of the things that we really like to focus on is onboarding, right? Because when you get a new client coming on board, they may have called you for homeowners insurance, and they may just think that's all you sell is home insurance.
Right.
And you need to educate them that you've got other types of coverage, whether it be auto, commercial lines, life and health. Maybe you're doing Medicare out there, and you want to explain to them the different types of coverages that you have. Talk about the staff in the office, what their role is and what they do, and just go over, maybe it's payment processes, things of that nature, anything that could, help you reduce the amount of time and effort. The payment process, I think, for a lot of smaller agents is really huge. Because if you can get the client to know that they can go to the carrier website and make that payment, as opposed to the old days, Teresa, when people tried to walk into the office every day and make the payment, it took all that time. And then you got to do all the back end checks to make sure all the money came in right. Balance. Yeah. No, Kelly, it does. You got to check everything up. That was a nightmare. So the key is to really try to automate those processes. So I love the onboarding process for automation.
I love that too. How about you, Therese?
I think we have to recognize too, as staff who uses templates, that we may see all these templates go out and we think, oh my gosh, this is so many emails. There's so many, it's just so much. But what we don't realize is that one customer is receiving those automations, those emails. They're not seeing the 50 templates that go out. And I think sometimes we get the wrong mindset of, oh, we don't want to templatize it because, that's 50 emails and the customer is going to get too many emails. But those touch points with those customers really make a difference when it comes to, oh, they know who I am. They're paying attention. They know my policy. Mm-hmm. So, when you get those emails, and even if they're automated, they still are going to say, hi, Kelly, how are you? Welcome to the agency. And then, maybe 3 days later, hey, did you get a chance to check your policy? Have you reviewed it? Do you have any questions? And then on a birthday, hey, happy birthday. Oh my gosh, my insurance agent remembered my birthday. So And there's places where templates just do so much. Newsletters, when we send out newsletters, those kind of different touch points with those templates can make all the difference with a client. Remembering who we are as an agency, seeing our branding and just seeing that we do care about them. And if they do have questions, they have a way to reach out to them.
Yeah. And I think, Therese, to that point, it builds that relationship. We're in a relationship business.
Yeah.
So, and they see that you care, you're reaching out, you're communicating, it builds that trust level and it keeps the client. I think that really helps on the retention piece. And you could probably run, data behind that to show that it would increase the retention rates.
So another thing that I always like to tell people too with the email templates is it actually also really helps you onboard virtual assistants as well, because
Mhm.
now they can just, use the template, feel a little bit more confident, comfortable, and virtual assistants as well as new team members, right? Like, it's just a huge opportunity. So you guys talked about onboarding. I always like to also think about just anything that you constantly have to attach: certificates, auto ID cards, proof of insurance, anything like that. Have a template, because one, you will just speed things up so fast. And also, another one I like to is if you are presenting a quote, like having the template there to make it all nice and professional. If you are sending a policy, right? So maybe it's not a one that the carriers don't send directly, but instead, you have to mail out. All of these things are just ways to speed up your team and your time, and also offshoot some of that work to lower level team members that need the experience and the training. And now it's going out very professionally.
And Kelly, I think one of the other areas too that we should probably touch base on is really claims. And I think
Yeah.
a lot of times we don't think about that as much, and people say we'll call the carrier, whatever. But the issue is that's the one place where the agent really can shine and help the client out in their time of need. You buy insurance, you never use it unless you have a claim. And then when you have the claim, you really want that experience to be the very best that it can be. And what I find is a lot of times they haven't had a claim before. It's their first claim. They don't know what to do. They don't know where to go. They don't know who to call. And if you've got that process built in and helping them with that, they will love you forever.
It's the only time they use your product.
Absolutely. That's right.
The way, like, it's the only time they ever are going to use that product. And I think when agents are, going through the process of, thinking about these templates, I feel like, and maybe George, you experience this, is why people come to you. People get overwhelmed. Like, I've got to create all this email templates. Like, I've got to build the automation. Like, I just want to sell insurance. Somebody told me I had to have like an English degree and a tech degree to do my job, right? So, I think there's two things. One, George's company can help make this easier for you. So if you see the value, but you don't have time, that's why George exists, is to help you get all that going. And, we have built this great communication template library. I was working on it this weekend, and so more added to it, of course. I think it's over like 60 communications and email, letter, and text messaging opportunities. So you don't have to think too hard. For me, and I don't know if like Therese and George, you feel the same way, but like I can look at something and tweak it, but sometimes it's so hard to start and be like, all right, what does a welcome to my agency letter look like?
Starting is the most difficult part on that, Kelly. I would agree.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
why having people like us out there to help them put this together, it just makes the process a lot easier and more efficient.
Also, ours are professionally edited. So if you're like me and are not a grammar, I grew up in the generation of sounded out spelling, which is a
Yeah,
terrible thing in
you
the
didn't have Grammarly or spell check back in the day.
terrible use of resources in the public education system. But sorry, Therese, you were going to say something.
Well, I was just going to say, if you have, virtual assistants and or new staff, it makes it so much easier for them to transition and to feel more comfortable sending emails if it's templated. So, yes, we don't want it always to be robotic and be a templated email. You want to put some kind of personalization in there, but it does help them, feel more comfortable about what the email says and, them sending it to a customer.
Absolutely. So our keys are, guys, email templates help with efficiency. You don't have to do it alone. But if your team is feeling overwhelmed, and they're always feeling overwhelmed, I know it sounds crazy, but 5 minutes saved a day equals 21.7 hours a year. And that's just work days. Okay. So we didn't count weekends in that. But if you could save half a work week, and I think we can all agree by having an email templates that people use all day long, that would easily save 5 minutes a day. And I think there's some false beliefs about efficiency out in the work in the, in the insurance space that like, well, something's going to save us hours in order to make it happen. Nah, you just have to shave off moments through automation, like what George does, through email templates like we're offering here. And your team, one, will have a more professional appearance out to the customers, but also save a lot of time. So thanks, George, for joining us on this podcast. We appreciate you.
Well, it's been a pleasure. I appreciate the time. Thank you very much.
All right. We'll see you guys in the next podcast.